Welcome, everybody. Welcome to today's session, which is You Think, You Can, Building and Projecting Confidence. I am your facilitator and host for today. My name is Jamie Green, and it is my pleasure to have you here. This webinar is born from a desire of mine to spread humankind communication, because I really believe that humankind communication is what we are all in need and want of right now. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what humankind communication is, and of course, what confidence and how it can boost our confidence. But I want to get you started talking to one another. So if you would, go ahead and hit that chat button down at the bottom of your screen. And if you would, please go ahead and say hello via chat. Tell us where you're from. And just say hi, everybody. Give it a whirl as I continue letting people in. Here we go. Yay. So Ray from IFG, nice to see you. Is everybody finding your chat button? There we go. Wonderful. Yay. And Tacoma, yay. And yes, Liberty Lake, what, Lewiston. Hey, Amanda, thank you. Nice to have you here. And Becky in Lewiston, fantastic. I did have one of my associates in Dubai say that they might join, but I'm not sure about that because I think the time difference is a little strange, but who knows? Lovely to have you all here. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And Val from Laclede and Jake in Lewiston. Fantastic. All right. So here, what are we here to talk about today? We're here to talk about how humankind communication can help us decrease a lot of the problems that we have with regard to our sense of self. And that means self-confidence. And so it can also help us increase self-confidence. So you'll see in a moment why decreasing self-confidence, decreasing our confidence is a cycle, and increasing it is a cycle. And we're going to talk about how that cycle works. But first, I want to talk to you about humankind communication. Humankind communication has 4 pillars. The first pillar is being mindful. That means being in the present, being in the here and the now, letting go of the stories of the past and the worries of the future. Too many of us live too much in our heads, and we listen to those stories and those worries rather than being in the present. The second pillar of humankind communication is that of intention. Now, those of you who are with Idaho Forest Group, you've heard me talk about this many, many times. Intention means, why are you communicating? What's your purpose? Well, also it means, what is it that you want for the other person, for yourself, and for the relationship? When we approach communication with intentionality, we get clearer, more direct communication, which helps everyone involved. The third pillar of humankind communication is that of being invitational. There is a model of rhetoric called invitational rhetoric, and it means that when you are addressing an audience, you help the audience to feel safe, you help them feel valued, and you appreciate that they have their own thoughts and experiences. When I use invitational in this sense, I'm talking about the same thing. That when we enter into a communication event with someone else, if the environment is a safe environment, if we feel valued as participants, and also if we understand that We are free to have our own thoughts, our own experiences, our own feelings and reactions without fear of retribution. Then what it means is we're more likely to give to the conversation. We're more likely to actually participate. And the way that we create invitation is by getting curious, asking more questions of one another, and asking questions of ourselves. The fourth pillar is an easy one, at least I hope for everyone on this call. It's being kind. Kindness is so important, especially today. Give me a thumbs up if you agree, or let me know in the chat. Yeah, kindness, kind of important, to have some courtesy, some respect, just being friendly. With all of the mask wearing, has anybody else found that even behind your mask, you want to smile? Okay, now I know a few of you, and you probably don't, but most of you do. We want to engage. We are social creatures, and we want to be able to have friendly connections with others. Well, here's the thing. When any one of these four pillars is shaken, our sense of confidence can be shaken. Think about it for just a moment. If you think about how mindfulness, if your brain is too much in the stories of the past and you're listening to those stories, those, especially if they're negative, think about what that can do to your confidence. Or if you're listening to those worries of the future, think about what that does to confidence. Think also about the times when you have been in situations, especially at work, everybody, and also in our personal lives, where the environment itself is not safe. It's not one where you feel valued. What does that do to your confidence? It shakes it, right? It causes you to feel like you're on shaky ground. And the other one that comes to play in this one, I think, is that element of curiosity, where somebody just doesn't even wonder, or you don't wonder about the possibilities. Then we get stuck. And being stuck, remaining in one place, doing the same thing over and over, is the definition of insanity, not confidence. So, what is confidence? Confidence is a feeling of self-assurance that arises from one's appreciation of your own abilities and your own qualities. Now, I'm going to stop for just a moment because I want in the chat for you to answer a question for me. How do we appreciate something? What element is necessary for appreciation? And I'm going to ask you the question this way. Can you appreciate something that you have not seen, not heard, not experienced in any way? Can you have really an appreciation for it? Let me know what you think. Kindness is key. Yep. But how about appreciation? Where does appreciation come into play? Recognize and acknowledge. Yes, Ray. Yes, Amanda, feedback. Yes. And genuine intent, Trey. Absolutely. All of those things that you just mentioned, recognition, acknowledgement, feedback, and genuine intent, all of those things come with reflection. Means that you took a moment to actually think about something, to look back. Absolutely, when it's in line with your values. But how do you know if it's in line with your values? You reflect on it. Understanding what the other person is seeing requires a reflection. It means I've got to stop and think, what is it that the other person sees? How is this experience? And that sincere intent means, yeah, I've got to stop and think, really think about what is happening. We can't have confidence until we have gone through the experiences upon which we reflect. Here's how it works. I call it the circle of confidence because I like, things like this. So here we go. The circle of confidence. It starts, well, actually, let me do it this way. How many of you have heard of that old adage, fake it till you make it? Anybody? Raise your hand, nod, yeah, fake it till you make it. How many of you think it's true? Yeah, I like Shanna was like, a little bit. There is some truth to it, as we're going to see today. But what about other advice that you've gotten about building your confidence or being confident? What kind of advice have you received? Carrie is saying yes, should be fake till you become it. I like it. Do it scared. I love that one, Becky. Do it scared. Yeah. We've all seen it work for a period of time, generally, that curtain is pulled back in due time. Yep. It is. Scared, excellent. Be willing to be vulnerable. Absolutely. Be willing to be vulnerable. Fake it till you make it is a subconscious affirmation. Yes, it is. And we're going to use it, but it's also not completely true. Because if all you ever do is fake it, then you never made it, right? So the making it, the doing, as we're going to see in a moment, is super important. So the way that we build confidence, the way that it happens is this. It starts with us being in our comfort zone, right? We know how to do something, we're doing it, we're comfortable, it's good, we're there, all is fine. And then we get curious. What if? Or we're presented with a situation that could take us out of that comfort zone. And we wonder, what if? And then we have to become courageous, because what we have to find within ourselves is the courage to then put ourselves in a position where we're constructing the reality, the new reality, rather, that something that puts us into something outside of our comfort zone, that stretches us and causes us to grow. We have to be willing to construct a reality that requires a leap of faith. And then once we have finished that leap of faith, we can look back with confidence and say, I did it. Wow, amazing. But you can't just have confidence. Confidence isn't just a vaccine. I'm sorry, I couldn't help but go there. It's not something that you can just take a pill for. It's not something that you can just sit in a chair and wish for. It can help the visualization, but you actually have to do the doing. All right. How does that sound? Does that make sense to everybody? What do you think? Yeah. All right. Well, actor Will Smith actually had a great experience, and I would like to share this experience with you. So hold on just a second, because one of the things I want to do here is make sure. There we go. And if this is too loud, yell at me and I will turn it down.
Skydiving is a really interesting confront with fear. I gotta stand up. You go out the night before and you take a drink with your friends, and somebody says, yeah, we should go skydiving tomorrow. And you go, yeah, we'll go skydiving tomorrow. Yeah. And you go, yeah. And everybody goes, yeah. And you go home by yourself, you're like, right? You're like, well, yeah, I mean, they was drunk too. So then that night you're laying in your bed and you just keep, and you're terrified. You keep imagining over and over again jumping out of an airplane, and you can't figure out why you would do that. So you get there, and then you have this safety brief, and you're standing there, and the guys will tell you, well, if the chute doesn't open, what's going to happen is well, why the hell, what could happen? So you get onto the airplane, and you're sitting there, and you know, it's extra because you're sitting on some dude's lap, some stranger, trying to make small talk. Yeah, man. So you be jumping with people all the time, huh? So you fly and you go up to 14,000 feet and somebody opens the door, and in that moment you realize you've never been in a freaking airplane with the door open. Terror, 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 terror. And then people start going out of the airplane. And the guy walks you up to the end of the thing, and you're standing and your toes are on the edge and you're looking out down to death. They say on 3. 1, 2, and he pushes you on 2 because people grab on 3. And you fall out of the airplane. And in 1 second, you realize that it's the most blissful experience of your life. You're flying. There's zero fear. You realize that the point of maximum danger is the point of minimum fear. The lesson for me was, why were you scared in your bed the night before? What do you need that fear for? Everything up to the stepping out, there's actually no reason to be scared. And then in that moment, all of a sudden, where you should be terrified is the most blissful experience of your life. And God placed the best things in life on the other side of fear.
What do you think?
That was my experience with
What do you think? You can open your mics if you'd like. Talk to me in chat. Anybody been skydiving?
Hi, this is Carrie. I have. That resonates with me. I know that exact feeling.
It does, doesn't it? And the thing is that everything that we're talking about there, everything that he talked about, is that circle that I mentioned earlier. If we go back and we look at that. So look at the circle again. There's the comfort zone. That's everybody down on the ground saying, that looks cool. You know? Yeah. And then they got curious. Well, let's do that. Let's go skydiving. And then they had the courage to actually go and get the training. And then the construct is being up in the plane, right? Meaning that the actual reality, they have the courage, they're up there, they're in the plane. The construct, rather, really is that leap of faith, stepping out of the plane, or in his case, being pushed out. The confidence comes from being on the ground and looking back and reflecting upon it. Yeah? So here's what I want to talk about now. I want to talk about each one of those elements and how you can apply them in your own life. I like that Jamie Major is saying, skydiving is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. No need to do it again. I've never done it. Many years ago, I went parasailing. That was enough. I'm happy. It was a wonderful experience. No way am I doing skydiving. I'm fine. But the idea is still the same, right? So let's talk about it. When we think about our comfort zone, one of the things that happens if we stay in our comfort zone is that we listen too much to our self-defeating or self-limiting thoughts, words, and behaviors. So self-limiting thoughts can be things like, I can't, they won't let me, I could never, right? And anything that's negative there. Self-limiting words are the same. And we use them in odd ways that limit our confidence. And they can be, I just used one, in very subtle ways. The ums, the uhs, the ers, the well, like, those kinds of things. Or I'm sorry, saying I'm sorry, even when you have nothing to be sorry for. Things like when you say, if it's okay, as though you're asking permission to feel the way you feel. Or starting sentences with, well, I think, or I feel. Do you know why those are bad, anybody? Why those can be limiting your confidence? By saying, I think, I feel. Think about meetings. Think about conversations with loved ones. Why might starting a sentence with, well, I think, be limiting you? Okay, try this one on for size. So what if I gave you two sentences? Well, I think that what we ought to do as a family is go camping. There's that statement, or this statement. Camping would be a wonderful experience for this family. Which one sounds more confident? One or two? Of course, it's number two. Because in the first sentence, the I think, I feel, etc., you're qualifying your statement. Once again, almost as though you're asking for permission from other people to have your thoughts and feelings. You don't need that permission. You get to have your own thoughts and feelings. There are self-limiting behaviors. So many people have said that direct eye contact is an absolute key to confidence. Direct eye contact. It's not true. Did you know that? It's not true. Using too much or too little of anything can be a self-limiting behavior. So too much eye contact, too little eye contact, right? Being too rigid, being too aloof. So there is, for behavior, nonverbal, gesture, body stance, for that to exude, for you to exude confidence with your body means finding a comfort in your own body, in your own skin. Which means I think we ought to try it. So here we go. Everybody, wherever you are, wherever you're sitting, I want you to look at the way you're sitting, because I don't think anybody else is standing. All right, I want you to look at the way you're sitting. Now what I want you to do is be more confident. Come on. Find a way that exudes more confidence. There you go. Marlon has it. Yes, she does. Okay, so I'm going to back up just a little bit here. And I'm going to show you some power poses. Are you ready? And if you'd like to follow along, it's a lot of fun. So if you want to stand up, it's okay. So power pose number one is what I like to call the Superman pose. Actually, it's not just me. I stole that from somebody, but it really is the superhero pose. It's where you stand with your feet a little bit wider apart than shoulder width, and your hands on your hips, like Superman with the cape flying behind him, or Wonder Woman, right, with her cape flying. Does she even have a cape? Whatever, behind her. Okay, so this is the power pose number one. Now, of course, you're not doing this when you're sitting down. You're doing it when you're standing up. Power pose number two is like that Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of thing, or Rocky, where you're like the weightlifter and the champion, the boxing champion. Now, just doing this for a moment, come on, try it with me. Even just sitting down, you'll feel the power pump. And then, of course, if you pump those fists a la Rocky, you're going to feel it even more. Yeah. The ceiling. Okay. Yes, exactly. So one of the things that we can do is to get our body pumped a little bit. It does help us feel more confident. When we are sitting down, you're in a meeting, you're in a conference room, you're not just going to suddenly jump up and go into Superman pose. You're not going to do that. But you can do some things when you're sitting that help you to be more confident. And oddly, it's not necessarily sitting up perfectly straight like an old-timey student in school, right? Instead, a power pose or a confidence pose when you're sitting, especially with a group of people, is a more relaxed pose. So if you are able, you're kind of sitting in your chair, and imagine it's like you're sitting on the couch where your arm is kind of up behind you and relaxed a little bit. If you can't put your arm up on another chair beside you, right? Then what you can do is you can kind of, lean in some way. Notice that it's relaxed. There you go, Stephanie. That's it, Trey. Yeah, a little bit more relaxed kind of feel and look. Another thing that can exude confidence when you are wanting to project confidence are certain hand poses. And that doesn't mean that I want you to strike a pose, but it means the way that you can hold your hands. If you are in a meeting and you want to appear more thoughtful and you want everyone to really understand that you have something that you are saying that should be considered, putting your hands into pyramid pose, which is literally your fingers together. It's not prayer, okay? It's not prayer, but a pyramid. There you go, Trey, you got it. Yeah. The pyramid pose. Another really good one is that thoughtful pose, that the thinker pose. There you go. The thinker pose. Yeah. So some of these things, notice what they are, is they're a little bit more relaxed. They're not rigid. The idea, who was it? Sheryl Sandberg, who wrote the book Lean In. There is some truth about the fact that when people are engaged, they lean in. But here's the trick. When you want people to really pay attention to you, you lean back. There you go. Because suddenly what you've done is you've now pulled back and everybody's going to go, why? What happened? So I just want you to think about that for a few moments. Think about what behaviors, what thoughts, what words, what behaviors do you engage in right now that you feel might be self-limiting? And then what I'd like you to do is just kind of think to yourself, what could I do that might change them? And I'm going to give you an idea, some ideas in a few minutes, all right? Or some more ideas. Okay, now I got to check my chat here real quick because I'm not seeing. Oh, the Papa Bear pose. Oh, I cannot see that one right now, Tal, you're going to have to show me that one later for sure. Okay, love it. All right, next. We have the element of curiosity. This is where the concept of visualization comes into play. This is where you use the power of your mind to visualize potential outcomes, possibilities. Now, don't get stuck on the negative possibilities. Focus on the positive possibilities. Although I will also tell you, especially for public speaking, if one of the things that you do is you imagine someone heckling you, and you work through that visualization, you work through that possibility in your mind, then in reality, if it occurs that someone heckles you, guess what? You're going to be a lot more comfortable handling it because you've already lived the experience. You know why? Because your brain doesn't know the difference between fantasy and reality. That's why in the middle of the night, when you dream you're falling, you get scared because your brain thinks it's happening. So really very powerful tool to use visualization. The other piece of this is to ask yourself those questions. Get curious. What if? Now, what happens? Let's just say that you want to ask for a raise. You really think it's time you got a raise. But what are some of the what if questions that you get stuck on? Oh, I'm sorry. I was in power pose just then. Any ideas? What are some of the what ifs? What if I'm rejected? Yes. What else? What are some of the what ifs? You can unmute yourselves if you'd like, if you'd rather talk than chat. Thank you, Stephanie. Stephanie's helping me out here. And yes, what if they get angry? In other words, we focus on the negative what ifs rather than the positive what ifs. The what if question is not inherently negative. Think positive outcomes. What if they say yes? What will I be able to do with a raise? What will that money mean to me and my family? What if when I say I want this amount and they say, well, we were going to offer you more? What if? I love that one. What if they tell me I'm not worth it? Oh, yeah. Oh, that is so self-limiting, isn't it? But what if they say, you are worth it. You are so worth it. What if they avoid me the next time? Oh, so very true. And then what if they don't? What if year after year, they just keep wanting to give you promotions and raises? What if they say yes? Do not take that what if question as an automatic road down the negative, right? Use it as an opportunity to fully walk around the situation in your mind, visualizing all of the possibilities. The more you play out those possibilities in your mind ahead of time, the stronger you're going to be in the end. All right, here we go. Courage. Very often we confuse courage and confidence. They're not the same thing. Courage comes before confidence. Courage is what is required of us to then get to the point where we can look back and say, yeah, I did it, and have confidence. Courage is the opportunity to pause. Courage is that moment, is an opportunity to be in the here and the now, to breathe in the moment, as I say. It is an opportunity to face the fear, to face the possibilities full on. And by the way, it's not always fear. Sometimes there's a great and a wonderful positive energy associated with what you want to do. So it is the moment where you take a pause. That's okay, Tal. Thank you so much. All right. So absolutely, it is an opportunity for courage to find it within you to step fully into the moment that is about to take you away from your comfort zone and into something new. And then there is what I call the construct. And that means you're going to construct the actual reality. Thinking back to the Will Smith video, it's the moment, the construct is the moment, not when he's in the plane. That's courage. The construct is the moment he leaves the plane. That's that leap of faith. He has now completely left his comfort zone and is now experiencing something new. That's the construct. That's the taking action. If you have a fear of public speaking and you never, ever get up in front of an audience and speak, then you never constructed the reality. You never took the leap of faith. You never put yourself in the position to try something new. Then, after you have constructed the reality, taken the leap of faith, then when you have finished, you can reflect. And this is the opportunity to say, yeah, I did it. Did I do it perfectly? Maybe not, but that's okay because I learned, I grew, I had a new experience. Those are confidence builders. And then do you know what you do? You start with the self talk and the self words, or the words and the behaviors that show that greater confidence. It is the moment when you give yourself the pat on the back. I want to pause for just a moment and ask you, what are you thinking so far? What's on your mind at this point? Anything? Nobody has a mind left.
I think
Okay.
that, can I speak? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Again?
We can hear you, Marlon.
Oh, okay. I was just from the reflection point. I think that it's important to encourage people to write down in the beginning what those, what your limiting thoughts are, what you're projecting, what you want to do going forward, so you have something to reflect on, because we forget so quickly everything we went through to get to this, and that way we can reflect on that in the future when we're looking at it again.
Absolutely. And so guess what? Let's do it. Let's do it right now. What do you say? If you have a piece of paper, go ahead and get one out. If you don't have a piece of paper, but you have your phone handy, open your notes app. You're going to want to write this stuff down because it's good stuff. All right. So let's do what Marlon said. Let's go ahead and let's actually talk about changing your reality and having more confidence. So the first question, in what area of your life would you like to exude more confidence? Now, this can be anything, right? But don't be too broad and general. Be as specific as you can. So, for example, instead of saying, I want to be better at work, that's very broad and general. Instead, say, I would like to be able to build a happier team or a more successful team. Maybe if it's home related, maybe it's that I would like to be able to stand up to my mother-in-law. Thanksgiving is coming. I don't know, maybe that's necessary. Maybe what it is that I would like to be able to give a public presentation. I would like to be able to ask for a job, whatever it is. You're writing this down for you. You don't have to share it with any of us. It will never be recorded for infamy. Okay. Next question. What is the first thing that pops into your mind when I ask you, what are your self-limiting thoughts regarding that area that you want to improve upon? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Yeah, I can't is a big one. It's just big. That word can't right there is self-limiting. It really is. And then think about any of the words that you use that are self-limiting. So for example, back when I was talking about the work situation and wanting to build a better team, let me give you a very specific example. If I say, I want my team to be better, listen to that carefully. That's meaning that I want other people to change their behavior, right? That is a very self self-limiting statement, because guess what? You can't change other people. So instead, I need to think about that and say, I want to be able to motivate my team. Now, if I say that, it's more specific and it's about me. You getting the idea here? Yeah? Cool. How about any self-limiting behaviors that you have? If you want to be able to stand up to your mother-in-law, but you avoid all contact with your mother-in-law, that is a self-limiting behavior. All right. Now, let's set you free from those limits. This is where we're going to use mindfulness and the visualization. I'm going to ask you to have some courage here and to get curious. And what I want you to do is I simply want you, now you don't have to close your eyes, but it helps if you do. If you don't want to, that's fine. Find a soft place to rest your eyes, someplace that's non-glare, so away from your screen. And just relax a little bit, right? Shake out the shoulders, relax just a little bit. Take a couple of breaths just to kind of settle in. And all I want you to do is visualize what is happening now. So with regard to that area of your life that you would like to have more confidence, picture it. Picture it as it exists in this moment. What do you say? How do you behave? What other people are involved? Now get curious. What if you had a conversation with your mother-in-law that turned out beautifully? What if you had that team meeting and your team got so stoked? They were so hyped up, ready to go. They were charged. They were motivated. What if you went to your supervisor and asked for a new job, a new promotion or pay raise, and they say yes? What if you're stuck in a bad job right now and you want a better job? What if the perfect job happens, you interview, and they want you? Visualize the positive. What does it sound like? What does it feel like? This, ladies and gentlemen, is that fake it till you make it piece. We're faking it, if you will, through the visualization. Okay, now the last piece of this is simply to breathe in the moment. Breathe in the positive outcome. Breathe in, that's the courage. And now all you have to do is write down, once again, what is the first step you need to take to construct the reality that will allow you to take that leap of faith? What's the first step? In Will Smith's case, remember the first step was to go someplace where they could actually connect with people to take them up in the plane and get the safety briefing. That was the first step. He didn't just go hop on any old airplane and jump out. There were steps involved. What are the first step you have to take to construct your reality? Okay, so I have absolutely no fear of public speaking at all. Doesn't bother me in the least. You put me up in front of thousands of people and I am perfectly at home. Put me across the table from one person and I freeze up. I am very intimidated by conversations like that. And now this goes back a long time, but way back in the dark ages when I was in college, I needed to go talk to a professor about an idea that I had for a project that was a little, okay, way outside the norm of what he was asking for the projects that we were to do. And I was terribly nervous because this meant actually talking to him one-on-one. Now, in class, it was fine. I liked this professor. It wasn't any of that, but I got caught up in my own thoughts and my own what ifs and my own doubts. And my normal self-assured self began to go by the wayside. And I literally started trembling. I started crying. I walked around the building 4 times. And the first loop around, I am having the conversation about the doubts and the insecurities, and he'll say no, and this can't be done, and all of this kind of thing, all of that. And the second loop around, I'm going back into my childhood and all of the times that I was told that I wasn't capable and it couldn't happen and all of that sort of thing. I am so lost in the stories of the past and the worries of the future at this point. But then the third circle around, what I began to do was to find a little bit of courage because I began to imagine the possibilities. What if? What if he said yes? What if he thinks it's a great idea? What if this is the beginning of something that could matter to the rest of my life? What if? And by the way, if you hear that noise, it's my dog snoring. But yeah, so the what ifs. And I began, instead of listening to the stories and the worries, I began instead focusing on positive potential. And by the 4th time around, I had straightened my shoulders, wiped away the tears, found my voice again. And I went into his office and I said, have I got an idea for you? You're going to love it. And I sold him an idea about this project, to which he immediately said, yes. I found the courage. Now I have to construct the reality, which, by the way, meant having a conversation with Gary Trudeau, the author of Doonesbury, if you know that one. Okay, so I had to actually call up Gary Trudeau. And I made that happen. And it felt really good. And I wrote a paper and I did this project. And at the end of it, it was like, I did that. I accomplished that, something I thought in the beginning I couldn't do. So I left my comfort zone and I found greater confidence. I tell you that it was one of those moments where it's like, yeah, when I need to find confidence again, I go back to that moment and remember that feeling, and I draw upon that feeling. All right, there's my story. One of many, but there you go. All right, I've got just a little bit more for you. So let's see what we've got here. And pause and, oh yes, and resume my share. And here we go. All right. So one of my favorite quotes, absolutely love this one. And that is, man cannot discover new oceans unless he has the courage to lose sight of the shore. You have to get out of your comfort zone. And it doesn't matter what. You have to leave the comfort of the now to be able to develop the confidence in the future. All right. Got a couple other things for you. The next one, if you can all see the screen, if you are not already connected with me on LinkedIn, I do invite you to. I post a lot on LinkedIn. Would love to have you join me there. You can simply scan the QR code underneath my picture there on the screen. And so you take your phone, set it to camera, and the camera will scan the QR code and connect us on LinkedIn. The other is, of course, you had to know that this was coming, everybody, that I am going to make a pitch to you, that I am hosting my very first online course called Humankind Communication. If you sign up for the course before October 1st, you get it at half price. And to do that, all you have to do is scan the other QR code on the screen. Let me tell you a little bit about that course because I think it's exciting and I'm really hoping you will too. So the course is built on the 4 pillars that I mentioned earlier of being mindful, intentional, invitational, and kind. It's my model of humankind communication. The course is an online course, but it has a lot to it. It has 4 of these webinars included. So this is the first one. You thank you for attending. There will be 3 more live ones, and I will more than likely continue to repeat those live. There are also monthly coaching sessions. So you will get an automatic invitation to those sessions. And if you would like to talk about anything in regard to communication skills and becoming a better communicator, I am there for you. And so that's included in the price of the course. In the course, you're going to learn 4 very specific things. You're going to learn how to apply mindfulness to communication. Now, this doesn't mean deep meditation, everybody. It simply means learning how to be present in the moment, which again, I think is something we all need a lot more of today. It also is confidence building. It also is about time management. Now, you may think, what, time management, that's not a communication skill, but it is. Think about how all that you have to do in the course of a day impacts your communication. And so instead of talking about time management, I'm really going to help you with priority management. And then the last one is probably one of my favorite segments of all, and it's all about becoming a better listener. And I'm going to talk to you about what I call hear training instead of ear training. If any of you know what that is from being a musician, I'm going to talk to you about hear training for becoming a better listener. I think that it's jam-packed. This was just a little bit, and there's a whole lot more in the course. The course starts on October 1st. So if you sign up by then, you get it at half price. You can just scan the code right there. Oh, and it also includes a subscription to my newsletter so that you can kind of keep up on some great tips and stories, that kind of thing. All right. Any questions, any thoughts, any ideas, anything you would like to discuss, anything at all? The floor is open. Oh, but I love Marlon is doing her power pose there. This is cool. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Yeah, it's good. Questions. What did you like? What stuck with you today? What was something that we discussed that you went, yeah, yep, got that. The contemplative pose. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what you were just saying just now with this, like, I view that as like gratitude. So is gratitude a confidence pose?
Well, actually, with your palms flat together like this is not confidence. It's actually more like this, where you're a pyramid. Yep. Yep. So when you hold your hands more like a pyramid, that's the power pose. Don't you love it? The power poses. Do you want a couple more power poses? Would you like to see a couple more? We've got time. All right. So again, when you're sitting, if you are having a conversation with another person and they're dominating the conversation, right? You just can't get a word in edgewise. Here's one of the tricks with eye contact. Look away. Pretend you're not interested. Do you know what's going to happen? Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. Great. What's going to happen when somebody looks away?
Hopefully they'll notice, but depending on who they are, they might not.
Why not? But the idea is that when suddenly your interest is diverted elsewhere, they will naturally have a lull in their rhythm. And you can use that lull to actually swoop in and take back control of the conversation. Yes, it works. It really does. I've used it on people. It's magic. Another power pose is this. When you want to feel a little stronger and feel a little bit more in control of something, if everyone else is seated, stand. Do I have time? Yeah, I've got time. I'll tell you a quick story about me becoming a jury 4 person. You ready? I'm serving on the jury. I knew I wanted to be the 4 person because I thought that was really cool. I thought it would be a lot of fun to do that, but I was the youngest person in the room. Also, I was only one of only 3 women there. So I decided I'm going to use what I know about communication. Here's what happened. After the trial, we all are ushered into the jury chambers, and everybody else immediately pulled up a seat. I headed for the front of the table and stood. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, gently leaning on a chair in front of me. I just stood there, looking at everybody. And then when it came time and they all just said, okay, well, now we have to select a jury 4 person, who did they look at? The person standing. I was immediately selected.
And also at the head of the table. I mean, you said
also at the head of the table. Yes. So is it manipulation? In a slight way? All communication is manipulation, ladies and gentlemen. All of it is. I wasn't manipulating for a bad reason at all. I truly was doing it partly out of self-interest, but also because I wanted, and I truly did believe that I had the skill set to help the jury through this situation. So yeah, I don't lack confidence usually. I really don't. But I'm just telling you some ideas here. The other thing, though, that we can do to exude confidence is to, again, be comfortable in our own skin. The days of the power suits are over. They really are. Most people don't even, most people don't wear suits. We're not in a major metropolitan area. So suits are not as big a thing at the moment, but I want you to also think about the fact that what you wear still matters, but being comfortable who you are makes the most difference. So, okay. And thank you, Carrie. Thank you for being here. Oh, yes. I loved what Will Smith said. What is worth having is after the fear. It's so true, isn't it? So true. Once we get past that, through the fear, we can look back on the reflection. That's when the confidence comes in. Okay, again, any comments, questions, thoughts, takeaways? All right. Well, everyone, I want to thank you so very much for spending part of your Tuesday afternoon with me. It was a pleasure to have you here in this session about building and projecting confidence. I hope to see you all again sometime in person or online. And until then, please go create for yourselves an absolutely wonderful remainder of the day and a fantastic week. Bye, y'all.